Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today we are finally taking a break from the USFL draft reviews because we have some huge news coming out. We finally know all the games on what platforms they're going to be available on. Now, we knew the schedule from a while back, we didn't actually know what channels they're on. So, we're going to quickly go over each of the games on what channels they're on before we actually talk about exactly what they mean and all that. So, without further ado, let's just get started with this. On the first week of the season, on the 15th, you have both games are on Fox. Those are the Stars versus the Showboats, and the Generals versus the Stallions. Then the next day, you have the first game on NBC at the Michigan Panthers versus the Gamblers. Then on FS1, you have the Maulers versus the Breakers. Then in week 2, on the 22nd, you have first game on USA, the second on Fox. Those are the Houston Gamblers at the Breakers, and then the Showboats at the Stallions. Then Sunday, you're going to have the NBC game of New Jersey versus Pittsburgh, and then FS1 of Michigan versus Philadelphia. Week 3, you have games on USA and Fox, which are the Breakers at the Stallions and the Showboats at the Gamblers. And then on Sunday, you have NBC and Fox, with the Maulers at the Stars and the Generals at the Panthers. Week 4, on Saturday, you have Fox and NBC airing the games of the Gamblers at Stars and Showboats at Panthers. Then Sunday, you have NBC and FS1 of the Breakers at the Generals and the Stallions at the Maulers. Week 5 on USA and Fox, you have the Maulers at Panthers and the Gamblers at Stallions. Then Sunday, you have NBC and Fox with the Generals at the Stars and the Showboats at the Breakers. Week 6, you have the Maulers at the Showboats and Stallions at the Panthers on USA and Fox for Saturday. Then Sunday, you have FS1 and Fox. You have Breakers at Stars and the Generals at Houston. Then on week 7, you have on Fox and FS1 for Saturday, the Stallions at the Breakers and the Stars at the Maulers. Then on Sunday, you have on USA and FS1, Gamblers at Showboats and Panthers at Generals. Week 8, you have the Gamblers at Pittsburgh and Stars at Stallions. Those are USA and NBC. Sunday, both games are on Fox. You have the Showboats versus the Generals and then the Panthers at the Breakers. Week 9, on Fox and NBC, you got Panthers at Maulers and Breakers at Showboats. Then on Sunday, you have NBC and Fox with Stallions at Houston and Stars at Generals. Week 10 on USA and Fox, you have Maulers at Generals, and then Stallions at Showboats, and then you have FS1 and Fox on Sunday for the Breakers at Gamblers and Stars at Panthers. Playoff games, you have one on the 24th of June, and you have one on the 25th. First game's on NBC, and the second's on Fox, and then the championship game on July 1st will be NBC. So that's a quick overview of the entire schedule. Now we get into more of the overall, how good is it? Let's just put it this way. It's a lot better than the XFL schedule was. Now, the first thing to note is that there's not a single game on. There's one game that starts past 8 o'clock, and that's a Week 7 matchup between the Stars and Maulers. So, aside from that, every game starts at 8 or earlier, which is still proving to be a very, very important thing. Especially as I know, when this video is being recorded, the XFL ratings just came out for Week 4, and the game that started at 10 o'clock had terrible ratings to nobody's surprise. So it's a very good thing they're learning from their mistakes. They also, as I've said before, they're only having games on Saturday and Sunday, which I think is a huge W. I think it's best to try and make games very easy to know when they are. So knowing that they're on Saturday and Sundays versus is there a game on Monday, is there a game on Thursday, is there one on Friday is good. If you're going to have a game not on Saturday or Sunday, it should be at a specific time every week. So yeah. Now, in terms of why this schedule is so much better than the XFL. The XFL, before any of their random schedule changes that they've been doing recently, they only had 7 games on ABC across the entire season and postseason. The USFL is going to have 29 games on broadcast. That's Fox or NBC. Broadcast games are the best games you can get by a country mile. And they have 29 of them. That is almost 3/4 of every game is on NBC or Fox. Now, that is also an increase from last year by about 6 games, if I'm not mistaken. So, they're showing that they truly do believe, both Fox and NBC, that the USFL is a great league that can succeed. Or else they wouldn't be pushing extra games to Fox and NBC, which are their best networks. Now, to make it even better, there's not a single Peacock exclusive game. I believe there was a couple in the USFL last year, which were terrible. The bottom line is, no matter what you think about streaming, the facts are the facts. Streaming is not the best way. Now, I just want to throw this out there before we get to the season, just like the XFL. This Peacock is not going to be giving you no 200,000 extra viewers on the viewer scale. Just as an FYI, if it gives over 100, they'll make a deal about it. It's just like the XFL, how there are people who actually think these games are getting 100,000 plus on ESPN Plus. No, they're not. If they were, we would know about it. They're not, so don't think about it. But streaming is a good way to have other ways for people to watch who do have Peacock. So even though those are only for the NBC/USA Network games, that's still a decent amount, as I believe that's about 18 games total that are going to be on there. And the fact that the title game is on NBC shows that they might be doing an alternating broadcast for it, just like the NFL, how it alternates between different networks. So that's overall a cool thing as well. Now, I think the huge thing to know about this is the fact that, as I said, this is a big deal that you have all these games being played on broadcast TV. It shows that the Fox and NBC executives do believe in this league and they're pushing it, which is a very good thing. The commercials that have been going on for a while, I think this is overall a cool thing. And then naturally the big question is between the Week 3 matchup of the Showboats at Gamblers, which is going head-to-head with the XFL, one of their playoff games, their first one. So I think that that's definitely going to be a huge thing to see what ends up happening between those. If the USFL is able to win, that's going to be a huge boost for them. There's a chance that they could, even though the XFL game is a playoff game. The fact is that it's not on a broadcast network. The game on that time is, it's not on ABC. Only the title game is. In fact, that one's on ESPN2, which is one of their lesser networks. So there's a real shot that game between the Showboats and Gamblers could beat it. And even if it just ties it, that's a huge boost for the USFL. Even though you say it's on broadcast, it's playoffs versus an early game, like early week matchup. So the USFL should lose that battle, but who knows? I mean, maybe they pull it off and they beat them, because if they do, that's a huge boost for them, which would be insane to see. But we're going to have to wait and see for that one for sure. And then now I know there's a technical one as well in like the championship game. There's like one that kind of overlaps a bit. And I think that the XFL is going to get also hurt by the fact they have an actual break in between the playoffs and the title game, is they have a week break in between, which is like the Super Bowl. But I don't think that's the right move. I think that the USFL is right to have it be each week because you'd rather, not lose traction. But we'll see. So overall, that was the schedule release in terms of all the networks and stuff like that. As I said, I think it's a huge deal that they're having all these games be easily accessible. I think that naturally we're just going to be waiting to see when the tickets release for the playoff games and stuff like that, since we still don't know for that yet. But considering the fact that the XFL, I don't believe you can buy tickets for the playoffs yet, even though we're almost halfway through the season is something else. In the next couple of days, we should have the announcement for the jerseys of the Showboats and Maulers, as well as I still have 2 more USFL draft reviews to do. As always, this has been ZombFox. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified for when any of those videos come out. And as always, have a great night.